Welcome, everybody. And today I wanted to mention that we will be speaking about a very specific practice. When we speak about Agnihotra, we are talking about a very specific method. On the internet, there are many things by the name of Agnihotra, but they are not all the same. So the wonderful results that you'll be hearing about and the scientific research that has been done on Agnihotra that will be shared in this workshop, all of that was done following this specific method. Okay. Tom?
Yeah, I'm trying to switch it. There we go.
Okay. So people all over the world have experienced such wonderful results from Agnihotra. Normally people tell us that their overall health improves, and if they have some health issue, it either is resolved or the symptoms become less. Many health problems have been cured. People find they've been cured by practice of Agnihotra. Also, a really important benefit of Agnihotra is people around the world in all walks of life have found that Agnihotra helps them feel more calm. It reduces tension on the mind. And this is huge because certainly all our health is impacted by stress. And by calming the mind, we can make better decisions and do better in our lives. Tomorrow, Monica Koch will be talking about how to make home remedies from Agnihotra ash. And we'll also be hearing more about healing from Abel Hernandez, who is the co-editor of the Homa Health newsletter. Agnihotra is also used to heal the environment and undo the effects of pollution. And Dr. Ulrich Burke will be sharing information on that in the next hour. Harmful radiation is a problem all over the world. Initial experiences and trials have showed that Agnihotra has neutralized harmful radiation and EMFs, that's electromagnetic field disturbances. So we'll be hearing more from Dr. Burke and Lee Ringma about those topics. And Agnihotra has been found to be a tremendous aid to plant growth. People use it in their gardens, on their plants in their homes, and it's being used in farming. And this is especially important now when we have to consider world food supplies. Tomorrow, Bruce Johnson will be giving a presentation on Homa farming. So Agnihotra is a process of purifying the atmosphere through specially prepared fire done at exact sunrise and sunset. And this comes from Vedas, the most ancient knowledge known to man. Remnants of Vedic knowledge can be found all over the globe. Virtually all ancient civilizations had some practice of purification through fire. And in the course of time, that knowledge, the science was lost. But due to the conditions that we find ourselves in today with such intense pollution, this knowledge is being revived again. And this is ancient universal knowledge that anyone can use to their benefit. Vedas are also known as Shruti. That means that which was heard. So Vedas were heard by the ancient seers. And it was in Sanskrit, which was the language of the learned for disseminating knowledge to the people. And it's interesting to note that all languages on earth have some words that come from Sanskrit, but there are no words in Sanskrit that come from any other language on earth. I'd also like to say that this Vedic knowledge belongs to all people. So all people, young, old, regardless of sex, race, religion, nationality, or walk of life, can perform Agnihotra. To obtain the benefits of Agnihotra, it's absolutely essential to use the correct inputs. So there are 3 inputs to Agnihotra: the materials that we're going to burn in a special copper pyramid, the exact timings of sunrise and sunset, and the vibrational input in the form of Sanskrit mantras. Nothing is to be changed or added. So the materials we'll be using are the copper pyramids, dried cow manure, raw whole grain rice, and ghee. Absolutely nothing else to be substituted or added. The copper pyramid is an essential part of the Agnihotra process. It's of a very specific size and shape. The Vedic knowledge says that just at morning Agnihotra time, all the electricities, energies, ethers are attracted to the pyramid in its shape. At sunset, these energies are thrust out in the same shape. So the size and shape is something very important. Back in the 80s, there was a lot of interest in pyramids at that time. People were doing experiments, keeping fruit stored in pyramid-shaped vessels, and they found that the fruit stayed fresh longer when it was kept in a pyramid-shaped object. So there's something special about this pyramid shape itself. It's very important that the pyramid be undamaged. It should not be dented. Sometimes on the market, you can see pyramids that have had handles attached to them. And this means that the pyramid shape has been punctured, so it's damaged. And this will affect the subtle energy process. So these are not suitable for Agnihotra. Dented pyramids either need to be replaced or in some cases they may be repaired. And you'll see that this pyramid is a seamless piece of copper. There's no soldering, nothing has been joined together. The quality of the copper is very important. Sometimes on the market, on the internet, you see pyramids that look very shiny. They almost look as if they're gold. And that can mean that zinc has been added to them. So the purity of the copper is less. In Ayurveda, there's very little difference between copper and gold, the effects. They're both mentioned in Ayurveda, they're both used in Ayurveda. You might know people who wear copper bracelets for arthritis. So it's copper and gold are known for their healing properties in Ayurveda, but the copper is a lot cheaper than the gold, so we use copper pyramids. People sometimes ask whether using a larger pyramid would be better, if it would give stronger effects, but the answer is definitely no, and there have been some tests of this. And if you consider that we're working with subtle energies and vibration, the size would make a difference. So just think if you had a guitar and then you made one twice as large, you would get something different, but it wouldn't necessarily be something better. So we want to use the correct size and shape pyramid. For all these reasons, it's really recommended to obtain pyramids through one of the Homa therapy centers around the world or someone that they could refer you to. Another essential ingredient is dried cow manure. And this is used in folk medicine virtually all over the world. It inhibits the growth of some kinds of bacteria. Actually, until around, back in the 1900s, early 1900s here in the United States, a solution of cow manure and water was used to wash down the floors in sanatoriums because they found that it inhibited the growth of germs that caused fever. And in parts of Southeast Asia, this practice is still continued. And when I say cow manure, this means the dung from either the male or the female offspring of the cow. It's best to use cow manure from cows who've been fed only natural fodder without any chemical additives. In addition to its use in folk medicine, cow manure appears to have some special properties regarding harmful radiation. After the Chernobyl disaster in Ukraine, they found that huts that had been constructed with cow dung remained free of harmful radiation. Many years ago, in a mainstream magazine here in the US, they reported that the Russians were lining their spacecraft with cow manure because they found that it protected the spacecraft from harmful radiation upon reentry. So there's something special about this substance. And Dr. Burke will be telling more about it in his presentation in the next hour. Another essential part of this process is whole grain rice. We're using only 2 pinches of whole grain, unpolished, raw rice for each Agnihotra. It is said that the rice gives nutrients to the atmosphere in the Agnihotra process. We're also using unbroken grains. Now, chemically, broken and unbroken grains would be the same, but the subtle energy structure of broken and unbroken grains is not the same. And we're working with subtle energies, so we need to remove the broken pieces for the offerings for Agnihotra. What is sold here in the United States as wild rice is actually not rice. It's a type of grass, so that is not suitable. Brown basmati rice is a whole grain rice. White basmati has some processing and often has nutrients added to it, so that is not recommended. It's interesting that the grain we're using is rice. According to the macrobiotics, they say that rice is the most balanced food grain with equal parts of yin and yang. Also, that rice is found growing pretty much all over the world. Ghee is another essential part of the Agnihotra process. And when I say ghee, I mean clarified, unsalted butter made from pure cow's milk, absolutely nothing else added, no flavorings, colorings, anything else. It is said to transport the healing effects of Agnihotra fire into the atmosphere. And it can be kept without refrigeration for a very long time. It's a very special medicinal substance, and powerful energy is locked up in the ghee. According to ancient science, it's the only substance that does not lose weight when burned under, say, laboratory conditions. Many Ayurvedic medicines require ghee as an ingredient, and it becomes even more medicinal and takes on some different qualities if the ghee is aged. In Ayurveda, it's used to draw out infection, and when mixed with Agnihotra ash, the ghee can transport the ash to deeper layers of the skin. The timings used for Agnihotra are absolutely essential. It is done at exact sunrise and sunset. We're calculating the timings to the second. And if the timing is missed, it is not Agnihotra, and the beneficial effects will not be there. Sunrise sunset cycle is the most powerful biorhythm that affects man. Let's see. One question we get a lot of times is people will be looking at their timing for Agnihotra, and it appears that the sun may have already risen. And the reason for that is that the rays of the sun are refracted or bent as they pass through the atmosphere. So because of that, we're not actually seeing the true position of the sun. So one should use the exact timings that are on your app or the timesheet from one of the Homa therapy centers. Sunrise is such a very unique time, a very special time. So at sunrise, there's a flood of purifying energies that goes from the sun to where the sun is said to rise. I mean, the sun isn't actually rising and setting, it's the way it appears to us. So so there's a flood of energy coming through at that time. At sunset, that flood recedes. And I'd like to give a little bit of information drawn from the Vedic knowledge about what happens at this very special time. At sunrise, the many fires, electricities, ethers, and more subtle energies emanating from the sun extend all the way to the earth and produce a flood effect at those coordinates where the sun is said to rise. The flood enlivens and purifies everything in its path, destroying what is impure in its wake. This torrent of life-sustaining energies causes all life to rejoice. At sunrise, that music can be heard. The morning mantra is the essence of that music. It is the quintessential sound of that flood. At sunset, the flood recedes.
Also, it's important to note that the timings that you see in the newspaper or on the weather about what time sunrise and sunset occurs is different than the timing sheets that we use. They're usually about 5 to 7 minutes off because they calculate the sunrise and sunset differently than the Vedas note for us. And also the refraction in the atmosphere is similar to the refraction that you see if you stick your foot in the water. Your foot oftentimes looks like it's not attached to your leg anymore, which is the same situation that occurs in the atmosphere with the sun.
Sunset is a very special time as well. And as that flood of energy recedes, then nature is in a state of imbalance. Many people notice that if they have a cold or a virus or something, that they tend to feel worse around sunset. And some types of harmful bacteria sharply increase their growth rate at sunset. Anyone who works with Alzheimer's patients can tell you it's common knowledge that many people suffering from Alzheimer's become more disoriented or agitated around sunset. And there's actually a term for that. It's known as sundowning. So clearly there's a change taking place in nature at that time. So by performing this purification at sunset, we are restoring the balance until morning Agnihotra. It's very important to find the exact timings for your location. Fortunately now we have the Agnihotra Buddy app, which is very easy to use. So if you have an iPhone or Android phone, you can get that app for free. Very convenient, it kind of counts down the time. Also, you can get timesheets from the various Homa centers, and you can see the link to the program for calculating your own timings. I'd like to talk a little bit about Agnihotra and the Nadi system. The Vedas talk about many different subtle energy bodies or sheaths that human beings have. We don't even have names in English for these things. So one that's called the Nadi system, imagine it's like the nervous system, sort of corresponding to the nervous system, but interpenetrating the nervous system because this is a subtle energy body. And there are things that affect that. If you're breathing, we're not always breathing in the same way, and the way we breathe affects the Nadi system. For example, you may be breathing through the left nostril or the right nostril or both nostrils on different days or at different times. And actually, our breathing is connected to the phases of the moon. So if we're breathing through one nostril, then this has a different effect than breathing through the other nostril. For example, if you've eaten a heavy meal, it's recommended to lie on your left side because this will have you breathing through your right nostril, which will help digestion. If you have a cold, it's recommended to lie on your right side, and this will help healing the cold. So there are different effects. If we're up at sunrise, automatically our breathing will be adjusted to whichever nostril or whichever pattern we should have for ideal health, just to be in sync with the Nadi system. If we're not awake at sunrise, then the breathing change may not take place as nature is planned, and this is said to make us more prone to disease. So by being up at sunrise for Agnihotra, our breathing will be adjusted, and this has a good effect on the Nadi system. This might be one of the reasons that so many people around the world tell us that their health improves when they start doing Agnihotra. The Agnihotra mantra is also essential. It's well known in science that different vibrations have different effects on living things. Years ago, people were doing experiments of playing different types of music to plants to help them grow better. There were experiments with using different types of music, playing it for cows so they would yield more milk. So these are just some simple examples of how different vibrations affect living things. So there are vibrations that exist everywhere, and where there is vibration, there's also sound. When we utter these mantras, these sounds activate these special vibrations, which create a certain atmosphere of effects. Sanskrit is a language of vibration, and that's why these vibrations are so essential in Agnihotra. As you can see, the mantras for Agnihotra are very short. I'll just sing them for you. The morning Agnihotra mantra. Suryaya swaha, Suryaya idam namama, Prajapataye swaha, Prajapataye idam namama. Evening Agnihotra mantra. Agnaye Swaha, Agnaye Idam Namama, Prajapataye Swaha, Prajapataye Idam Namama. So they're very short, and just with a little practice, just about everyone can learn them. So it's this combination of these specific materials that we burn in the copper pyramid, the exact timing of sunrise and sunset, and the vibrational input of the mantras that produces these effects of Agnihotra. One thing I forgot to mention when we mentioned the timings, many people use an atomic watch or atomic clock, or what they call them radio wave clocks or watches, because those clocks or watches automatically adjust to the correct time. So that can be very helpful. We can't fully explain everything that takes place in Agnihotra. I'm going to read the following hints that are derived from the Vedic knowledge that shed some light on how Agnihotra works. Just at morning Agnihotra time, all the electricities, energies, ethers are attracted to the pyramid and its shape. At sunset, these energies are thrust out in the same shape. This flood of energies at sunrise has a strong purifying effect wherever it touches the earth. Agnihotra amplifies these purifying effects in the following way. Subtle music accompanies this flood of subtle energies. The morning Agnihotra mantra is the essence of that music. Through the combination of exact timings, the copper pyramid of fixed size and shape, the specific materials used for preparing the fire, and the power of the mantras used, a channel is created above the pyramid through which prana energy, which connects us with the cosmos, flows harmoniously again. Tremendous amounts of energy are gathered around the Agnihotra copper pyramid just at Agnihotra time. The pyramid is the generator, the fire, the turbine. A magnetic field is created, one which neutralizes negative energies and reinforces positive energies. When the Agnihotra fire is burnt, there's not just energy from the fire, but there's subtle energies created by the rhythms and mantras, and these are generated or thrust into the atmosphere by fire. Also, consider the quality of materials burnt, and there's the full effect of this yajna. So all kingdoms of nature are represented in Agnihotra. Copper for the mineral kingdom, rice represents the plant kingdom, the ghee and cow dung, the animal kingdom. Man is the performer, and fire is the connecting link to the subtler realms. Sri Vasant Paranjape taught that the human body is something like a transformer, which transforms high energy from the universe into a level which is then available to all of nature, such as the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. Only humans can do that. Plants and animals can't. So that's why only humans can perform Agnihotra. But if we use the body mainly as an instrument for getting pleasure, then the intended use as a transformer will not work properly. And now we'll have a demonstration of Agnihotra.
It's not going on. There we go.
Okay, we are going to perform evening Agnihotra here. It should be in about 6 minutes, but what I want to do is explain to you exactly what we need to do that. What we have here is pure unadulterated cow's ghee, which is the only kind of ghee that you can use to perform Agnihotra. We have dried cow dung, which is the only kind of dung that you can use for performing Agnihotra. We have whole grain, unbroken pieces of rice that is used when we make the offering. It's mixed with a little bit of ghee. And we do all of this in a copper pyramid that you can see here. You can see I've already set it up for the light, but it's a pyramid like this, which is of a specific size and shape. And this is just used, that's why it's darker. I will get the fire going right now. so that when we do the offering to the fire and the mantra, it is exactly at sunset here to the second. So we have a time sheet. I don't have one with me, but we have a time sheet that tells me the exact hour, the minute, and the second that sunset occurs here at this location. So what I usually do is, as you can see, light one of the pieces of cow dung that already has cow's pee smeared on it, and place that in the center here, and add some pee to the other pieces of cow dung in here. Let it become fully ablaze so that when we do the mantra, the entire pyramid is fully ablaze and burning very well. And when you make the offering, you always make the offering with your right hand. Generally speaking, when you're touching the pyramid, you touch it with you move it with your right hand, not your left. If you're going to pick it up with your left, always have your right hand connected to it as well. So I'm going to build this up so we have a really nice fire. When the time comes for sunset. Again, the only ghee that you use is from a cow, and the only dung that you use for Agnihotra is cow dung. I usually start the fire burning at least 5 minutes before the actual timing of sunrise or sunset, so that you have adequate time to get it burning really well. I'm mixing a little bit of ghee with the whole grain rice so that it's ready when we are ready to make the offering for the fire. Agnaye Swaha, Agnaye Idam Namama, Prajapataye Swaha, Prajapataye Idam Namama.
Another very important aspect of Agnihotra is its effects on the mind. So we're often asked, well, how can burning these things in this little pyramid and saying these mantras and at these times, how can this affect the mind? Well, the ancient knowledge says that atmosphere, prana, and mind are connected. And when I say prana, I mean the life energy that flows through us and connects us with the cosmos. Due to pollution, the functioning of prana has been disturbed. So if atmosphere, prana, and mind are connected, we can also say that prana and mind are like two sides of the same coin. When we make a change in prana, then this will affect the mind. So by purifying the atmosphere, this harmonizes the effect of prana, the functioning of prana, and then that automatically brings about a positive change in the mind. It gives it a push in the direction of love. We're seeing wonderful results from around the world of people using Agnihotra in gardening and farming. I mean, these effects have been very well documented in some countries. Basically, people are finding just superb flavor, texture, size, yield, the health of the plants. All this can be just wonderful. In some countries in particular, in Poland and in Peru and in India, there's Homa farming. And tomorrow we'll be hearing more about Homa farming from Bruce Johnson in his presentation. It's also been successful with a wide variety of crops. Agnihotra is being widely used in healing. And I'd like to talk a little bit about Monica Cox's work. You can see her book, which is up there, which you can download for free, Homotherapy, the Ancient Science of Healing. Monica is a retired pharmacist. And years ago, when she was starting Agnihotra, she became interested in the idea of using Agnihotra ash as a healing substance. She noticed that if her pets had a cut or a scratch, if she applied Agnihotra ash, it would heal quickly. So she began to experiment a little more with herself, her friends, family. And now these Agnihotra ash remedies, which are explained in the book on screen, are used by many, many people around the world. People have used them successfully to treat a wide range of health issues. But before I go any further with saying anything about healing, I'd like to make it very clear that we make no promises or claims that Agnihotra will cure this or that or a specific ailment or cure this person. We're not doctors, we do not prescribe. But what we can say in all honesty is that many people have used Agnihotra and Agnihotra ash successfully to heal a wide range of health issues. And we're simply making that information available. We'll hear more about how to make these Agnihotra ash remedies from Monica Cox in her presentation tomorrow. And also we'll hear more about healing from certified homotherapy teacher Abel Hernandez, who is the co-editor of the Homa Health newsletter. We've seen some initial observation of Agnihotra having a protective effect regarding harmful radiation. Years ago, homotherapy teacher Karen Heschel had a farm in Austria at the time of the Chernobyl disaster, and the government required the farmers to submit samples of cow and fodder to be tested for contamination. And they found that her samples, unlike the other farmers, were showing normal background radiation. So, and she'd been doing these fires at her farm for some years. So we'll be hearing more about this also in later presentations. Also in 2014, there was an experiment at the University of Kiev in Ukraine where some highly contaminated rice was soaked in a solution of Agnihotra ash and water, and within 2 weeks, the radiation came down to around 0. And Dr. Ulrich Burke will be speaking more about that. Another thing that's of concern to many people today are EMFs, or the electromagnetic field distortion. many people around transformer boxes and high power wires experience headaches and other symptoms. At the Homa farm of Lee and Fritz Ringma in Australia, they had a really amazing experiment happen when they tested the EMF amount, whatever, with a meter, and outside their Agnihotra hut, it was around 0, and she'll be telling more about that in her presentation. There are some times when we do not perform Agnihotra. The Vedic knowledge says that a purified energy field is created around Homa fires, and this energy field can be influenced by people who are near the fire, by their energy fields. So to preserve the purity of the subtle energy around the Agnihotra fire, we don't perform Agnihotra or other Homa fires, and we don't come close when our own energy field is disturbed. One time when that subtle energy field would be disturbed would be during a high fever. Another instance is if one has a cut or a wound that is bleeding. While it is bleeding, we do not perform Agnihotra or other Homa fires. So for energetic reasons, the same discipline is followed by women during their monthly cycle. During menstruation, women are surrounded by an energy that travels downward in a spiral shape toward the earth, and Agnihotra is creating an energy which is flowing upwards toward the atmosphere, also in a spiral form. Now, both of these are cleansing energies. Both of these are important, but they work in different ways. To an extent, they nullify each other. So therefore, as long as there is bleeding, women should refrain from performing Agnihotra or sitting very near the fire or other Homa fires. And in this way, women will also protect their cycles. By the way, our teacher, Sri Vasant Paranjape, used to say that when a woman has her cycle, this is an ideal time for meditation. It will be more conducive to deeper meditations. And in Ayurveda, they say that this cycle is the reason that women live longer, because they have this extra purification time. Also, when a woman has just given birth, she should not perform Agnihotra until the bleeding has completely stopped. Many ancient cultures knew about the impact of subtle energies on the atmosphere, and they had various customs that required people to refrain from doing certain things at certain times. This was really quite common. Only recently has modern science started looking into the functioning of these subtle energies. Agnihotra is a science of purification of the atmosphere, and it's a science of subtle energies. So it is governed by universal laws. On the screen, you see a number of additional resources. Agnihotra.org is our website for our Homa Therapy Center here in the United States. I would like to call special attention to homatherapy.org, because this is the international Homa Therapy portal. You can look on there and see different countries listed and see if there's a Homa Therapy center close to you, find the closest one. HomaHealth.com lists a wide range of health issues, and it gives many reports on how people have used Agnihotra and Homa Therapy and Homa ash preparations to treat various health issues. I'd also like to mention, before we start the question and answer, several countries now, the Homa Therapy teachers are conducting Zoom classes for Agnihotra. So if you would be interested in that, please contact the Homa Therapy Center nearest you.